My guest today from Brussels is Amanda Paul, Senior Policy Analyst at the European Policy Center. And Ms. Paul has great expertise on issues related to Turkish foreign and domestic policy. She worked as a journalist for Turkish newspaper Today Zaman. We're going to discuss today with her Armenian-Turkish relations. Thank you for your time, Ms. Paul. During the last couple of days, Armenian and Turkish leaders, Pashinyan and Erdogan, exchanged some comments which could potentially suggest that two countries are preparing for some sort of rapprochement, reconciliation. Let me just quote some statements from Erdogan. Turkey is willing to work for the normalization of relations with Armenia. The region needs new constructive approaches, and Ankara is ready to gradually develop relations with Armenia. So these are the words that we heard from Turkish leader while he was on a trip to Bosnia. What do you think? What's your how serious is Erdogan, you think?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to your program. I think the comments from Erdogan should be perceived very positively. I mean, it's not the first time he's mentioned making progress towards rapprochement with Armenia. I mean, he's made comments several times, and I think this reflects the new situation on the ground. I mean, the regional situation has changed, and the reasons why Turkey closed the border in the first place are no longer there. But also, I think from Turkey's perspective, I mean, this step would be beneficial for the whole region. I mean, for Turkey, for Armenia, but for the South Caucasus in a whole. Obviously, it would enhance Turkey's position in the region, but it would also bring a lot of economic and trade opportunities to both countries. So I think, you know, it should be seen as a positive step. But I mean, it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow or in a few weeks. I think we need to have a bit of a long-term perspective on this. There's quite a road.
I was going to ask you about just that. Last week, the Armenian Prime Minister said that Armenia is getting positive signals from Turkey, to which Yerevan will react accordingly, he said. Is this beginning of another chapter in the history of relations between the two rivals? Or as some analysts suggest, Erdogan wants to show that he wants peace, but in reality, Armenia is not ready for peace. I mean, this was the line that Armenian experts would hold, and also some Western experts also would think that Erdogan wants somehow to please the Western countries, United States and European Union, that he is willing to negotiate with Armenians, that he wants peace, but you see Armenia is not constructive. What's your take on that, please? Would you share with us your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with you that obviously if Turkey was to move towards, rapprochement, this would be very well received by Turkey's Western partners, the EU and the US. As it was several years ago when the previous attempt at normalization of relations took place, but unfortunately failed. As I said, I mean, this is something that wouldn't happen very quickly. I mean, first of all, I mean, there's very little trust in this relationship, particularly from Armenia towards Turkey. So the situation, I think on the ground would need to be very stable. I'm talking about the situation around Nagorno-Karabakh. The situation, I think there's still, let's say, some question marks and problems, related to, borders, fire exchanges, etc., that need to be resolved. But I mean, from the Turkish side, I mean, I can see that Turkey has nothing to lose from opening the border with Armenia if the conditions are right, and this is from the other side, frankly speaking.
Now let's talk about Turkish foreign policy issues on Armenia. In many cases, Turkish policy in regard of Armenia and Azerbaijan is based on concept of one nation, two states, which means that Turkey will always have geopolitical bias and always defend Azerbaijan, be on Azeri side, even if Baku is wrong. Turkish foreign policy will always be a hostage of Baku, and its foreign policy towards Armenia will be decided, as many would say, not many, but some experts at least, that it's decided not in Ankara, but rather in Baku. Is that so?
I mean, I wouldn't say that is the situation precisely. I think the situation on the ground has changed a lot. I mean, Turkey's presence in the region is stronger now, particularly following the last year's war. Turkey now has a presence on the ground in Azerbaijan through this, monitoring mission. So I wouldn't say that. I would say to a certain degree that Turkey's leverage actually over Azerbaijan has significantly increased, both politically, economically, and military, thanks to the support that Turkey gave Azerbaijan during the war. So I think this is a shift from how it was several years ago. And also, I think for Turkey, I mean, Turkey is looking at the bigger picture here. It's no longer just about, relations with Azerbaijan. It's about Turkey having a much bigger stake in the region, in the South Caucasus, but then beyond that into Central Asia, as part of Turkey's new, more dynamic and proactive foreign policy doctrine. And this would include, of course, I mean, I see this positively as Turkey in a way helping to balance out more the role of Russia in that region, but also Turkey would also have an equal seat at the table in terms of developments or policies that are forward going in the South Caucasus, if that makes sense.
Ms. Paul, also Erdogan indicated that he's ready to proceed with 6-country platform of cooperation in South Caucasus, like Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, Russia, Iran, and Georgia. But now he said that even Turkey was ready to start that multi-platform cooperation without Georgia. As we know, Georgia is against cooperating with Russia. So what is this? Can you just explain, that means that Turkey is really keenly interested in developing this platform?
Look, I mean, firstly, we need to remember that, President Erdogan is looking for foreign policy success stories. Because his, ratings in Turkey at the moment and that of the ruling AKP are the lowest they've ever been, and this is coming, just before elections in 2023. So foreign policy is very much defining domestic policy. So hence the reasons why he can be coming up with these sorts of initiatives, which is enhancing the role of Turkey. But I mean, frankly speaking, the idea of having a regional platform which would function correctly, I don't think this would be very likely without having Georgia as part of this process, because I understand why Georgia doesn't want to be part of a platform where Russia is sitting at. This is the policy of the Georgian government. I mean, but Georgia also plays an important regional role as a transport corridor for pipelines and whatnot. So Georgia would need to be brought on board for this platform to be, I would think, as successful as the Turkish government would like it to be.
We heard also from Erdogan that actually he congratulated Pashinyan for his re-elections, and this is unheard of. It's we've never seen before. What do you think? What is the Ankara's policy towards a new Armenian government, or do we know about it at all?
I mean, I think that the Turkish government is having a more friendly approach towards Armenia, following the outcome of the war. I mean, Turkey feels that it can have this more positive approach and move forward with messages for possible, cooperation and normalization, including opening the border. But I mean, what really goes on inside President Erdogan's head is probably a mystery to anybody. I mean, the man quite often blows hot and cold. I mean, he can be, pushing one message for several weeks and then it can change to a different message several weeks later. But I think that Turkey is trying to hold out the hand of peace to try and find a bigger role for itself in the region. As I said, this is part of Turkey's, bigger regional objectives, strategic objectives for that reason, which is why it's important for him to embrace Prime Minister Pashinyan and look for opportunities where there can be a normalization of relations, because at the end of the day, it would be good news for both countries, especially for the border communities, and it would be a first step towards really, let's say, reconciliation between the two countries.
And also there's the issue of recognizing territorial integrity. I think there's, in Erdogan's statements, there is one line that could indicate that he is putting some sort of preconditioning the recognition of the territorial integrity of all countries. I mean, he's actually asking, indirectly Armenia to recognize Azerbaijan's territorial integrity, which will mean that Armenia is asked to recognize also Artsakh as Nagorno-Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan, which, if happens, the Pashinyan's government will be gone. I mean, we know that it's suicidal for any Armenian government to abandon Nagorno-Karabakh at all.
I mean, I think, honestly, for real progress towards, rapprochement, opening of the border, demanding such a thing from Armenia at this point is very unrealistic for the reasons that you just gave. I mean, it would be impossible for Prime Minister Pashinyan to do that. Maybe at some point in the future, this position may change, but I mean, definitely for the time being, this wouldn't happen. So I think that if there's a genuine, political will from Turkey and from Armenia to take these steps to open the border and normalize relations, it needs to be done in a very pragmatic and realistic way, so that it doesn't end in a failure as the previous attempts did, some years ago.
So now I'm asking you the most difficult question now. What is your prediction? What will happen between these two countries? I'm talking about Armenia and Turkey. Would that be possible, to opening up the borders, land borders between the two countries, or it will have this rapprochement attempt will have the fate of Zurich protocols?
I mean, I think that it's too early to say. I do think that there will be a rapprochement and the opening of the borders, but I don't think it's going to take place for at least 2 or 3 years. But I do think there is a genuine desire from both sides to do this, but it won't be quick. It won't be quick because there needs to be, a strengthening of trust between the two sides, and of course, a lot will happen as well in terms of the situation vis-a-vis the ceasefire agreement of November 2020, to what degree it's implemented. But I do think it is going to happen. It's a process that will happen, but not for the next couple of years. It's more longer term, let's say.
Amanda Paul, Senior Advisor at the European Policy Center, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Bye. I hope that we will talk in the future, right? It was very interesting. Thank you very much. Really.
Like, I'm always happy.